Economics is a study that is intertwined with man's life. Man makes many decisions in his day-to-day life. For anybody who has started or is willing to start into the vibrant world of economics, there are certain notions that one must remember. Just like how one cannot study math without knowing the principle of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, etc., the foundation of economics lies in the 10 principles of economics. Not just in academics, knowledge of these 10 principles allow even a layman to make better and more rational judgments in their daily life. Gregory Mankiw, in his text Principles of Economics, described these 10 principles of economics. They are as follows. People face trade-offs. The cost of something is what you give up to get it. Rational people think at the margin. People respond to incentives. Trade can make everyone better off. Markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. Governments can sometimes improve economic outcomes. The standard of living depends on a country's production. Prices rise when the government prints too much money. Society faces a short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. In these series of videos, each day we will take into account two of these principles and discuss in details what significance these principles could hold for anybody interested in economics. Up until now, we have discussed the 4 principles of economic decision-making, namely, people face trade-offs, the cost of something is what you give up to get it, rational people think at the margin, and people respond to incentives. To summarize, people face trade-offs because to get one thing that they like, they usually have to give up another thing that they like. The cost of something is what you give up to get it, not just in terms of monetary costs, but all opportunity costs. Rational people think at the margin by taking an action if and only if the marginal benefits exceed the marginal costs. People respond to incentives mainly because they compare benefits to costs. A change in incentives may cause their behavior to change. We will next take up the 3 principles concerning economic interaction, namely, trade can make everyone better off, markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity, and governments can sometimes improve market outcomes. Trade can make everyone better off because it allows countries to specialize in what they do best and to enjoy a wider variety of goods and services. Markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity because the invisible hand leads markets to desirable outcomes. Governments can sometimes improve market outcomes because sometimes markets fail to allocate resources efficiently because of an externality or market power. In today's video, we will be concentrating on the 5th and 6th principle of economics. Trade can make everyone better off. Markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. Mankiw's 5th principle is trade can make everyone better off. He says that many families compete with other families for jobs, and when we shop, we compete with others to find the best prices. But if we cut off ourselves from the market, we would have to grow our own food, make our own clothes, and build our own houses. Trade allows each person to specialize at what he or she does best, whether it's farming, sewing, or home building. In the same way, nations can specialize in what they do best. In both cases, people get a wider range of choices at low price. Trade among countries isn't a game where there are some losers and some winners, because trade can make everyone better off. By allowing specialization, trade between people and trade between countries can improve everyone's welfare. Although Japan and US compete in the global car market, this does not imply that trade between the two countries becomes a win-loss situation, but rather each country becomes better off by satisfying its customers' needs. Trade boosts the economic well-being of countries such that the benefits accrued by the winners exceeds the losses incurred by the losers. Trade enables countries to specialize in the production of goods that incur minimum costs and benefits from a variety of products and services from other countries. For instance, Saudi Arabia is one of the core producers of oil in the world. The country benefits from international trade by selling petroleum products to countries that do not produce them. And in return, it imports food and machinery from other countries that specialize in those products. In this case, the countries that export goods to Saudi Arabia would benefit from increased revenue, while Saudi Arabia would benefit from gains obtained from a variety of goods that it cannot produce locally. Let us understand the term trade better. Trade involves the transfer of goods or services from one person or entity to another, often in exchange for money. Economists refer to a system or network that allows trade as a market. Trade originated with human communication in prehistoric times. It is believed that it might have been taken place through much of recorded history. An early form of trade, barter, saw the direct exchange of goods and services for other goods and services. Barter involves trading things without the use of money. When either bartering party started to involve precious metals, these gained symbolic as well as practical importance. Modern traders generally negotiate through a medium of exchange such as money. As a result, buying can be separated from selling or earning. The invention of money and later of credit, paper money, and non-physical money greatly simplified and promoted trade. Trade between two traders is called bilateral trade, while the trade involving more than two traders is called multilateral trade. Historically, openness to free trade substantially increased in some areas from 1815 to the outbreak of World War I in 1940. Trade openness increased again during the 1920s, but collapsed in particular in Europe and North America during the Great Depression of 1930. Trade openness increased substantially again from the 1950s onwards, albeit with a slowdown during the oil crisis of 1970s. Economists and economic historians contend that current levels of trade openness are the highest they have ever been. This has increased competition and lowers world prices, which provides benefits to customers by raising the purchasing power of their income and leads to a rise in consumer surplus. For greater details, we'll be discussing consumer surplus in our future videos. Trade also breaks down domestic monopolies, which face competition from more efficient foreign firms, as we will discuss in our future videos again. Hence, to conclude, trade can make some people better off, especially if we ignore all the people it makes worse off. Mankiew's sixth principle of economics is, markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. Market economy is an economy that allocates resources through decentralization decisions of many firms and households as they interact with the market for goods and services. Mankiw says that in a market economy, the decisions of a central planner are replaced by the decisions of millions of market participants. Firms decide what and how much to make, and households decide where to work and what to buy. It is wonderful how this system is so successful at organizing economic activity to promote overall economic well-being. In a 1770 book, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, economist Adam Smith made the most famous observation in all of economics. Households and firms interacting in markets act as if they are guided by an invisible hand that leads them to desirable market outcomes. The invisible hand of the marketplace represents the idea that even though individuals and firms are all acting in their own self-interest, prices and the marketplace guide them to do what is good for the society as a whole. When a government prevents prices from adjusting naturally to supply and demand, it impedes the invisible hand's ability to coordinate the decisions of the households and firms that make up the economy. This corollary explains why taxes adversely affect the allocation of resources. They distort prices and thus the decisions of the households and firms. At first glance, the success of market economy is puzzling. In a market economy, no one is looking out for the economic well-being of a society as a whole. Free markets contain many buyers and sellers of numerous goods and services, and all of them are interested primarily in their own well-being. Yet despite decentralized decision-making and self-interested decision-makers, Market economics have proven remarkably successful in organizing economic activity to promote overall economic well-being. However, there is a sort of sloppiness in Mankiw's definitions to the terms associated with the statement, which is part of the problem. Mankiw relies on a sort of collective understanding to provide sufficient clues to the average reader will know, to provide sufficient clues that the average reader will know what he means. If the textbook doesn't define things so that everyone is talking about the same thing, it is dangerous because people assume others agree with them when they don't. The only people who can participate in markets are those with money. The level of participation is directly related to how much money one has. The fact that markets cater to people with lots of money, those who can buy whatever they want. When resources or goods are actually scarce, markets allocate them to those with money. When there is plenty, markets can serve only then those with less money. But markets will never do anything for poor people in scarce resources.